And we welcome you into this edition of the Deputy Podcast, the official podcast of the Oconee County Sheriff's Office SC. I'm Corporal Jimmy Watt. We are grateful you are here today for this Behind the Badge edition of the Deputy Podcast. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. A lot of times we have more than just the podcast on our YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out and make sure you click on to get those notifications as well whenever some new content is posted. On social media, a lot of great things we post there, Facebook and X and Instagram also. Our website's oconeelaw.com, a lot of great resources and tools on our website for you. And of course, all over social media, as we mentioned, but also our podcast is available on many of the podcast directories as well, such as Spotify and also Apple Podcasts too. But I mentioned this is a Behind the Badge feature today, and we're excited to have Deputy Cathryn Merriman with us from the Uniform Patrol Bureau, assigned to the Bravo shift, and we're going to try to take things easy on Cathryn today. We hope we can, so not going to ask too hard questions, but Cathryn, we're grateful that you're here, and I would imagine probably that when you're younger, you kind of have an idea of what you want to do for a career, I suppose. And I guess one of the first places we want to start is that when did you kind of make a decision, or did you know you wanted to be a law enforcement officer? Kind of take us through that process, because there was an encounter with law enforcement, a good one, with our K-9 unit that basically kind of got you into wanting to be a law enforcement officer.
Yeah, so I went through high school and I was big into agriculture. So
Right.
in high school, I always thought I'd do something in ag. I grew up on a farm, everything
Right.
like that. I'm a horse girl. I love horses.
Absolutely.
So, sadly, they are very expensive. So.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So I decided to kind of look into DNR
Right.
because they would have events and stuff with FFA. And so I chose to go through criminal justice at Tri-County Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Being there, you had to learn all the basics of the law and everything like that. So
Right.
I started becoming more educated about law enforcement in general, and they would have events like the K-9 team from Oconee County came out there
Right.
and did demonstrations, and I thought, man, it'd be cool to catch bad guys. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And a big thing part of me is I really like helping people as well.
Right.
I didn't have the easiest childhood at all. It
Right.
wasn't mom and dad in the picture, everything like that. So I did kind of grow up in the system, and a lot of drug use in my family, et cetera.
Right.
So, law enforcement wasn't a fun thing growing up. I was always scared of the cops and everything like that. And I know
Right.
that there's a bunch of other people that kind of had that growing up as well. So when I told my grandmother I wanted to be a cop, of course, she was very supportive of me. She raised me. So, but she was terrified. She was like,
Right,
please be a
right.
park ranger. And I was like, whenever I told her that, I think I'm going to try and be a cop instead
Right.
of DNR and stuff, she's like, oh my gosh. But so that kind of started my outlook into looking into law enforcement and stuff, and just
Right.
helping people is a big thing. So I decided to, once I graduated college, I wanted to apply to Oconee because I just watched them work and how great they got along, and I love seeing the K-9s and everything like that. So I applied to Oconee when I graduated from college, and
Right.
I got the job about
Wonderful.
two years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, you mentioned you grew up on the farm, so you mentioned horses. Did you have any other animals on the farm besides horses? Or
Growing up, it was all horses and dogs. So my grandma owned a horse rescue, or she worked for a horse rescue.
Right.
So I grew up with her kind of rescuing horses pretty much and doing a bunch of veterinary stuff on everything that they needed
Right.
help with. So it was
Right.
pretty cool.
Now, did you have a garden on the farm?
Oh yeah.
Now, what was the most favorite thing in terms of growing? What did you grow, or what did you like to grow? I've got family and friends that have gardens, and they got tomatoes, they've got
Oh, yeah.
peppers, they've got okra. They've got corn in some cases. Even a family member of mine at one time used to grow peanuts in his garden, which was great. But what did you? What was in the garden as you were growing up? So.
Tomatoes, of course.
Absolutely.
Everybody loves the tomato sandwich.
Right.
Except me. I'm a freak.
Oh, you don't like tomato sandwiches?
I don't like raw tomatoes, no.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a freak. I still grow them, though.
Yeah.
But corn and stuff like that. But the farm was mostly just having all the horses and
dogs.
Yeah, it's just a little family garden.
Yeah, so you were, I would imagine probably that when you saw, considering you had dogs on the farm, that when you saw the canine unit there, just something clicked in there. Would you like to be a canine handler at some point?
I would love to one day. That's kind of my goal, is to become a canine handler one day.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned DNR. You initially wanted to be a game warden, I guess. Is that right? Yeah. So, and then you made your way here to Oconee County, and you've been here for 2 years. I didn't realize you graduated from Tri-County Tech because I'm a Tri-County Tech alum as well.
Yeah.
Great school, and they do a wonderful job. So, I mean, college for you was just right around the corner.
Oh,
then.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned you like to help people. Is that the best part about being a law enforcement officer, is the ability to help people, you think?
Yeah, I would say so, especially when it comes to kids and everything like that. Being able to save them from whatever situation they have going on, or start that journey to have a better life for them, it's really impactful to me and means a lot.
So do you kind of, you mentioned your circumstances growing up.
Yeah.
So you kind of see some circumstances sometimes with some kids, and you're kind of able to make that comparison as
Absolutely,
well. Because as you said, you've kind of walked a mile in their shoes. So
Absolutely.
There's a lot of compassion and empathy because of that. So you get assigned to the Uniform Patrol Bureau. Well, what's a typical shift like? I mean, it's 12 hours, but you're answering calls kind of in a lot of different places, I would guess.
Absolutely.
And a lot of different kinds of calls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every day is different for sure. You never know what the next day brings. You wake up and a lot of people know what they're doing that day. I have no idea. It's whatever the county tells me to do.
Right. I guess so. Whatever dispatch tells you to do. We're with Cathryn Merriman, of course, who's part of our Uniform Patrol Bureau here at the Oconee County Sheriff's Office on the Deputy Podcast, Behind the Badge. You brought up an interesting point, and I tell people this all the time when they say, what about a typical day in law enforcement? And I always tell them two things. Like you said, you never know. Every day is a different day. But also, I feel like I learn something new every day. Do you kind of feel that way as well, that you kind of learn something maybe on a particular day that maybe you didn't know the day before?
Absolutely. Every call, no matter how small, there's always something new I learn. So I remember finishing FTO and being like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so scared. But with every call, every little step of the way, you learn little by little more and more how to handle different situations. And it helps you in your personal life as well. Just, being able to figure out issues and everything like that.
Right. And I would imagine probably as you continue on in your law enforcement career, you're kind of looking to those superiors, for guidance and assistance. But there's going to come a time when, you're going to be maybe in that position, and those younger men and women who come into law enforcement would be looking to you as well. I was just curious, if somebody said to you, hey, I wanted to go into a career in law enforcement, what would you tell them? What would you say to them, if somebody came to you and asked you that question?
Well, I would absolutely support it. We definitely need more people every day, and especially people who, want to do good and help people, etc. I would say it's not for everybody, for sure. There's a lot of tolls it takes on you, but work hard and you'll eventually get there, and it's worth it. Every day is worth it. Some days are harder than others, but I tell people at the end of the day, I'm so happy that I'm here and doing this job.
So you feel blessed to be a law enforcement
Absolutely,
officer? Yeah. What you mentioned about being possibly a canine handler. At some point in time, have you thought about, okay, as I go through my career, Maybe there's some specialized units I would like to go into. Has that kind of entered your mind as of yet?
Yeah, it has. I really do like investigations as well. On the road, we get to, kind of, if we want to, we can take one into our hands and follow it all the way through. I like solving things and solving crimes, especially the lower level ones that we get to work, and just solving problems and, figuring out everything and, getting bad people off the streets.
Right,
Love
right,
it.
right. What's the one thing, that's one thing when I was going to college at Tech.
Yeah.
How things were in the classroom or not
Yeah.
necessarily how things out on the road in real life and
Yeah.
in every career. So did you find that out as well, that
Yes.
you learn the classroom stuff, but it's a lot different when you get out there and start the job?
Oh, absolutely. It did help me a lot with understanding like the court systems and
Right.
the paperwork side of it, because that's probably one of the hardest parts. But the other parts that they don't, you can't teach until you do it. You do
Right.
it hands on. I've had like my family be like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I'm like, "I won't know till I do it,"
Right.
because it's completely different in the field and actually being there in person and handling situations. So
Right.
definitely it's very different.
Right.
But learning it in person and everything like that, it's definitely a hands-on job. So
Yeah. Camaraderie on the job.
yeah.
And those you work with. We mentioned that you're assigned to the Bravo shift, and of course
Yeah.
we have 4 shifts on the Uniform Patrol Bureau. How important is that camaraderie amongst those that you work with? Because you've got time for the serious work, but you've also got time to kind of forge those relationships with those that are as part of the shift. How important is that time?
I would say that it's pretty important. You spend half your life with these people that you work with. I mean, 12 hours you're spending with these people back to back. And like I said, you literally spend half your life with these people.
Right.
Building those relationships is really, really important, especially on a personal level, everything like that, because at the end of the day, when something goes wrong, they're coming to save your life.
Right.
And, vice versa. So
Right.
when it gets pretty serious, it's good to know that these people are definitely going to do everything it takes to help save you.
And of course, it's good to have somebody to lean on in those
Absolutely.
circumstances
Absolutely.
or whatever else. Well, Cathryn, you're doing a great job. Of course, everybody on Bravo shift is. Might as well just say everybody here at the Oconee County Sheriff's
Yeah.
Office is doing a fabulous job.
Yeah.
So we won't want to leave anybody out in that regard. But Cathryn, thank you so much for being with us
Of course.
today, and thank you for being part of our Behind the Badge feature on the Deputy Podcast. Of course, as we say, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. Click on to get those notifications as well. So if it's a podcast or some other feature that we're featuring, if you will, on YouTube, you can be aware of that. Social media, make sure to follow us on Facebook and X and Instagram, and also go to our website as well, oconeelaw.com. And a lot of great features on that as well. A lot of very important links and questions you may have about certain things. You can find out a good bit of that on our website. And of course, all the podcast directory, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can even sign up for notifications there as well, or sign up and subscribe to those podcasts. And then when a new podcast comes on board, you can be notified of that also. But we thank you for being with us for this edition of the Deputy Podcast, the official podcast of the Oconee County Sheriff's Office SC.